I'm Alan Plunkett. We have Nick Morrison, Sean Plowman, and Christian Kaiser. So I'll let everyone introduce themselves, but just as a quick background, I'm Alan. I own a company called Phoenix Staff, and we are here to help and have been around for about 18 years, trying to do as best we can, helping people just get through the challenging and tumultuous waters of looking for a new opportunity, looking for a new job, and these are certainly unlike anything we have ever seen. So none of the end-all be-all answers are going to be discussed today, but certainly some valuable information will be shared, and hopefully it's of use to anyone on this call. Nick, you want to go next?
Yeah, hey, good day, everybody. My name is Nick Morrison, founded Potiri, and everything that we do is surrounded by employee engagement. And so it's really a stand that work ought to be fulfilling, engaging, and meaningful. And we just implement solutions and help companies and people try and achieve that.
Excellent. Sean, since you're next on my screen, do you want to introduce yourself?
That works. I heard a little good day from Nick. Is that an Australian accent you got?
It is today.
I love it. My name is Sean Plowman. As you can tell, I'm the senior in this group. I've been doing this for quite a while, 22, 23 years in recruiting and helping companies find talent. Started a company last year called Boost HR and Recruiting, focused really in the small to mid-sized markets. And helping people, but in the end, like Alan has already mentioned, we see a need in the community right now to help others find work, and a lot of that's being done pro bono and really just helping candidates. And so this is the first of hopefully a series of opportunities just to share some things we've learned in our hiring and what clients have given us feedback over the years. Hopefully it'll be helpful to all of you today.
Thank you, sir. What about yourself, Christian Kaiser?
Well, I'm not from Australia, but I do have a Swedish accent, if you guys wonder where I'm from. Born and raised, came to these States in '03. I actually was unemployed for a year at that time. It was a very difficult time. I thought I was someone no one cared. Started in recruiting in '04, and then in '08 started Career Evolutions. Wanted to do a little bit of a different approach, and we still do. It's a more a full life cycle when it comes from a job and career perspective. So we do offer certainly recruiting services, but also outplacement and resume and coaching services. We started in '08, literally when Lehman Brothers went out of business. Our timing was less than perfect, to be honest. It was a very difficult time, but I must say that the difficult times we've gone through the last few months is in many ways worse. So coming together and being part of this great group and being available for everyone is an honor, and I'm delighted to be here.
Excellent. Well, I'm grateful for these gentlemen here. I reached out to them last week, I want to say, and said, hey, I'm thinking about putting something together that helps the local community as well as the community at large, and they answered that call very readily. So I am honored to know each one of them, and let's do some housekeeping stuff real quick, just so that everyone knows kind of what we're looking at here. First and foremost, here is let me actually back up. Sorry, folks. So first and foremost, regarding Zoom, because I know somebody just mentioned that this is their first time or they haven't used Zoom a lot. So this gives you a little bit of information into what you're looking at with regards to different views, as well as how to, I might give up. Chances are pretty good I'm going to give up, folks. Throwing the towel on this one. All right, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and surrender. So if you look in the top right corner, that allows you to see other attendees. You can go at the speaker view, which will give you each one of us as we speak, or you can go to gallery view. Hopefully you can go to gallery view, which would give you kind of that Brady Bunch style view of of the people in the room. And I don't know if it's only going to give you the presenters or if it's going to give you everyone, but we cannot see you. So there's no resting Zoom face that anyone needs to worry about because we can't see you anyway. With regards to ground rules, we are recording this. Everyone is muted, but we have the chat function open. So at any point in time, and please throughout this entire presentation, use that chat function to ask us anything that you want to ask us. It's going to be a whole lot more effective if we are asked questions that either we've never been asked before or questions that we haven't been asked in a long time, or even questions that are brand new to some of us and maybe not brand new to all of us. But please do use that chat function as I see everyone is doing right now. And Nick, thanks for responding to folks there. If you can grab that, that would be wonderful. But really why we're all here today is to help everyone kind of stand out from the pack. You know, this whole webinar is put together to provide insight, perspective. There is no one cure-all for landing an interview. There is no one cure-all for writing a resume that is perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect resume. There is no cure-all for knowing that you nailed or aced the interview. All of those things take nuance. All of those things take practice. And all of those things are not always done incredibly well. So our goal today is to provide you with some feedback, some insight, some perspective on what we have seen be successful, what we have seen in our 50 plus years of doing this as a combined resource. I know, Christian, sorry to say that, buddy. It's true. What we have seen and what we may be able to impart on you to set yourself apart. So I'd like to kind of throw it out to the panel as a first question that I have, and I would love for the attendees to join in. But gentlemen, your perspectives, in your experience, Sean, Nick, and Christian, what would you say people in the initial phases from presenting their resume, just writing a resume and trying to present that to a hiring manager, what would you say are some traps that you see people fall into more often than not, and how do they avoid those?
I can go first if you want. I think the number one mistake that many people do is that they love the technology so much that they forget there's a person on the other end, and as a result, we find that a lot of people, are in a hurry to apply using the easy to apply function, and when you do that, you end up in a database. But it doesn't mean that the persons or the people on the other end actually see your application. The volume could be one. It could also be that there's a screening software that basically just screens you out, and as a result, your resume is never seen. I firmly believe that if you can get a hold of the hiring manager one way or another, through your own efforts or through other people helping or connecting with them through others, that is a far more effective, but also a far more harder road to walk sometimes. So I just wanted to kind of share that there's many other things I'm sure that Nick and Sean can speak to.
Yeah, I'll maybe speak to that a little bit. I think one trap that I see people fall into is thinking that there's one decision maker or one person that's going to do the hire, when realistically there's an entire organization that's there, and whatever role somebody's going into, chances are it's probably going to touch a lot of different people. And there's going to be a lot of different people part of that process. And so what you really want to do is, like, in presenting the resume or getting like that first connection with that company and presenting that first resume, is to get as many connections as possible as you can and get as many like people on your side and advocates for you in there. So then that way, when your resume gets passed from whoever the first person might be to sort of the second, and then maybe the third person that you interview with or other people part of the choice, they're already like speaking your praises and have really good things to say about you. So forming multiple different connections, as many as possible, and as many people saying your praises as possible.
Yeah, Alan, I'll just add a couple things to that. That's great advice. The first thing I would just say is, let's acknowledge that whether you're unemployed or whether you are looking to upgrade employment, either way, it's not easy to do. It's hard, and it takes a lot of work. And I think looking at that opportunity to either upgrade or to find work, the best way to approach that is to every day be consistent in your efforts. And particularly right now, during really an unprecedented pandemic time. So even for those who are working and working from home, it's difficult to get into a rhythm, right? And the same goes probably for job seekers right now. So I would acknowledge and just first say, get into a rhythm, wake up early, do the work early, and put some things on your calendars and some goals and so forth. Now, specific to your question, Alan, there's two things I think of that I think are common mistakes. One is not customizing a resume towards a specific type of a job. We have a tendency to send the same resume and do the easy apply, as Christian said, and send that same resume, and it's not really telling the story specific to that job. So there's little tweaks that can be made, and it takes a lot of work to do it. But my experience has always been that extra 15 minutes of an extra bullet point or two, or changing out a few bullet points that are more specific to a specific skill set, typically can really bring great results later on. That's one. The other thing I would say is I'm a firm believer in a very targeted cover letter. A cover letter is different than a resume. A cover letter allows you to sell yourself why you're good for that job. The resume doesn't allow you to really do that in the same way, and it's much more personal. And in that first 3 or 4 sentences in a cover letter, so you have the opportunity to really sell yourself, I would say set yourself apart by writing a cover letter for every job that you're applying to and why you're a good fit for that job and why you can bring value to that organization.
Yeah. Yeah. And the only thing I would add, Sean, to what the three of you just said is, kind of like along the lines of what you already said, your full-time job, if you are unemployed, your full-time job is finding a job. And that just has to be what you're motivated to do every single day. And further to what all of you said, you really have to find a way to differentiate yourself. If every other person is approaching this by, putting in 50 applications a day or responding to 50 job postings a day, you have to find a way to do something different than that, or differently than that. You can't just say, well, I put in a hard day's work because I applied to 50 or 100 or whatever job postings. You need to make phone calls. You need to send handwritten notes. You need to, find ways to stand out from that pack, because everyone else is going to be doing exactly that. And again, this is hard work. Nothing's easy about finding a job. Nothing is easy about finding a job. It is grueling. It is tiring. It is frustrating. It can be depressing. But to do it the same way everyone else is doing it doesn't always yield the result that you're looking for. So find ways of doing it different than everyone else out there is doing it. So I'm going to try to share my screen again. So wish me luck. But there is something I would like everyone, while I'm figuring this out, grab your phones, because you're going to need your phones for this. All right. So just open up your camera and use your camera to scan that QR code. We've got a quick poll for everyone here. I'll give everybody a couple seconds to do that. All right. Hopefully you have it. If not, go to slido.com and enter that number, 93324. All right, here we go. So the first question. Are you currently unemployed and looking, recently placed on furlough and employed and happy? That is extremely interesting to me. Currently employed but looking seems to be winning right now. All right, 40% currently employed and looking. 40% of the 15 people that voted. That is super interesting. Give it a couple more seconds because I know there's more people here than 16. All right. We'll move on to the next question. How well prepared do you feel you are for this search? We'll let it go to 16, assuming that those 16 are going to vote on this one too. Okay. Well, you came to the right place. I know I need help and I'm uncertain when I will start my new job. All right, so we're going to go ahead and exit that. Okay. So the first question with regards to, so I had somebody reach out to me. That's great feedback. We needed to ask if you are happy and not looking too, because I'm assuming there are those, and we did not ask that. But I really appreciate the feedback there. So those that are employed but also looking, I am very curious because anyone who's a LinkedIn fan, and for those of you that don't know, I am a huge fan of LinkedIn. I am guessing, but I wish I had this poll question, but just answer yes or no in the chat if you could. If you are employed but looking because you don't like the leadership that you have as we navigate these waters, just answer yes if that's the case, or no if it's not the case. Or if someone wants to explain exactly why they are employed but looking, that would be something that I would like to dive into as well. Because if that's the overwhelming majority of people that we have here. All right, Cassandra, I'm going to put you on the spot, and I might turn your mic on so that you can talk to us. Oh, okay, you're telling me right there, so I won't turn your mic off or on. So you had to take a lower job in January than what you were qualified for. So you've been looking. Okay. So I definitely want to, that could be a whole separate topic unto itself, quite honestly. I don't know that that's a topic for right now, but Cassandra, you and I can have a conversation, or any of these panelists will have a conversation with you after this for sure. Don, that's great. Currently employed, transitioning out in a few months. Self-employed grief coach, but always looking for more to do. Wow, this is a very difficult time to be a grief coach. All right, laid off and looking. Okay, so let's focus there, Pat. I appreciate that feedback. You are laid off and looking. Okay, so like we were just saying, like all four of us said, you have to find ways to differentiate yourself. And that is, I think it's very important for everyone to understand that is not just at the beginning of the process. That is through the entire process of looking for a job. So, now in this new age, or this new normal that we have of interviewing, like we are speaking today to all of you through video, I don't have the best background. I'm not dressed in the appropriate interview attire. I didn't shave like Sean did. There's nothing about my presentation that says I'm ready for an interview. Now, I would like to say that I did that on purpose. I didn't. This is just who I am. But if you are interviewing, you need to dress the part, whether it's through video or in person. You need to show up early. Those are things that we all know. But I would like to throw it out to the panelists again and say, let's say you are talking to a candidate who has gotten the chance to interview. Sean, Christian, and Nick, tell us what that next step looks like. I mean, they've been invited to do an interview, whether it's in person or via video. Let's assume that, within the next 3, 4, 5 weeks, we're going to be able to do these in person. But either way, what is on the candidate's shoulders to make happen so that that first impression and that interview leads to either a next interview or some sort of succession in this process?
Well, I'll start, and then I'll let both Nick and Christian add on. First thing is you need to do your homework. You need to learn about the company. You need to learn about the job. You need to go and fine comb, detail that job. You need to reach out to others that might be in similar type jobs at other companies. Talk with them about their jobs, what they do, what's successful. But most importantly, you need to understand and the company inside and out, why the job's open is extremely important. Is it growth? Is it a replacement? So you really need to do your homework, and homework you can do in a lot of ways, but the best place to do homework is to talk to people that either work there, right? Have connections that way, people that have worked there in the past that you might know in your LinkedIn network. You can obviously do some homework on places like Glassdoor, but simple homework, get on their website, learn about their products, learn about challenges in the company that are happening. Those are all in the news, right? You can learn about good things that have happened. And this homework will lead to discussions in your interview that will show that you're prepared, that will show that you care about the job interview, and that will help you lead to a next interview. So do your homework, I'd say number one.
Yeah, I think that's great. I'll plug in. I think on, at a baseline level, people hire other people to make their lives easier. And so start to be thinking about why this person's hiring and how you would be able to come in and make their life easier. So what are they looking to accomplish? If it's a smaller organization, maybe it's the entire company, like what's their mission statement, what are some pain points in the company, and then what are they really looking to go out and accomplish? And then think about how that fits into your own life. Because we're seeing it today, like there are difficult times that happen in jobs and in businesses in areas, and the people who are the most dedicated and have the deepest understanding of what success looks like and how to go and accomplish it, those are the people that really dig in and sort of push that forward. And so that's what we're typically looking for. So think about all those ways that you can like help them out. Not that you're going in to go sell yourself, but think about what they're trying to accomplish, how you can make them easier or their lives easier. So think about that, and then also design some questions to go in and ask that when you get in there. Because the thing is like if you're going in for a first round interview, you have no clue what's going on in the company, right? We're going to do a little research and kind of figure it out, but you're really doing research in order to generate questions that way you can go in and ask. So do that. And then also on the other side, Alan mentioned kind of about like the physical space. We're just doing so many interviews today via Zoom. And via phone, and so make sure your tech is set up well. Like the last thing that you want to do is like hop into a Zoom interview and then all of a sudden your internet's cutting out and something's spotty, people can't see you and you're having to call back and forth. That's a pretty easy way in order to not necessarily make it to the next round, because then you're just sort of making it difficult on them. So do practice interviews. You can even choose one of the four of us, and we'll be glad to do practice round interviews with you. We'll give you feedback about the background, making things are set up. So anyways, make sure like the physical environment, no matter whether you're in face-to-face or you're in video or you're in phone, make sure that's really well set up. And then think about also like how you can help a company accomplish success.
Yeah, good points, Nick and Sean. And definitely you guys win when it comes to backdrop. Mine is full of family pictures and God knows what else. Not perhaps what you want when you interview. But I wanted to add just a couple more things that was already said. And that is, oftentimes I find when I'm working with candidates and when I'm coaching people, when we're doing interview preps, prepare, know your stuff, of course, like Sean said, and then Nick, you hit some really important points. But keep in mind one question throughout the entire process. And it will vary depending on the audience, meaning who you're interviewing with, because just like Alan was saying earlier, it's a process, and you will have more than one interview in order to get hired. But if you can't answer the question, why should you hire me, in your mind, then you're like a boat without a rudder. Because ultimately it's about positioning yourself in the interview. And as you're looking at the job, as you're looking at the company, you then have to kind of peel off and start looking at yourself and saying, why should you hire me? And ultimately your answers need to kind of align with that. You're not going to be perfect. You're not going to know everything. A lot of times the job descriptions are asking for the guy who can walk on water and deliver all the presents in 24 hours to the entire world. It's a wish list oftentimes with a few important requirements and a few critical pains. But if you can align yourself with those, but also keep asking yourself, why should you hire me? And then do that analysis of yourself as a candidate, and then align a game plan where you maybe have 10 points, just like the politicians we watch on TV sometimes, they have talking points. Make sure to have your talking points that you bring out whenever it's appropriate through the interview. And of course, kind of mirror the style within reason, so that you're kind of following their lead. It's a little bit of a dance, and the interviewer is leading the dance. So just dance along without stepping on anyone's toes.
All great advice. The only thing I would add is, to Sean's point, make sure you do your research, and in that part of your preparation, formulate questions on your research. Write those down, bring those with you, because invariably what happens, and all of us have seen it a million times, when you are done with the interviewer will ask you, what questions do you have for me? Almost 100% of the time, they will ask you, what questions do you have for me? And if you have no questions, I don't care if you've interviewed with one person or they put you in front of a panel of 8, you need to have questions. You need to ask questions. Even if they're just variations of the questions that you already asked the previous 7 people, be prepared to ask questions. The biggest mistake I see people make is to say, well, the last 7 people already answered my questions for me. Don't do that. Don't be that person, because they want you to be curious. They want you to challenge them. And they want you to come prepared with questions that will show that you're interested. I think that's probably the biggest thing questions do, is it shows an interest in the company, in the role, in the opportunity. So do your research, ask questions, bring a notebook with you so that you don't lose track of those, because oftentimes you'll forget. Well, I had a whole list, but I left it in the car. I've literally seen that happen. And it's frustrating, because it's a very easy fix. It's don't leave it in the car. Do you guys have anything else to add before we have a question actually in the Q&A section?
Let me just add one more thing, and I know I'm stating the obvious, but you guys are going to smile when I say this, because we've experienced it so many times. I just prepped somebody this morning for an interview, and I apologize because the weed blower, the guy's blowing leaves outside my office here, but anyways, I just prepped somebody this morning and reminded her she is not happy in her current job, so she's trying to upgrade, and reminded her when they ask her why she's looking for a job, to not throw her current boss or manager under the bus and talk negatively about individuals at her current company or about the company in a real negative way. And it's really subtle. It's really subtle. Sometimes we don't even realize we're doing it, but I can't tell you how many times I've given that advice to somebody, and then the feedback I get from my client is they were negative. They didn't like their last 3 bosses. I found out they didn't like their last 3 bosses or supervisors or leaders. And so practice the question, why are you leaving your current job? And come up with an answer that's much more neutral. And even if it is because you don't like the current leader, be careful about what you say, because the leader who's interviewing you might look at you as a problem child or somebody that doesn't get along with people. And I've seen it over and over and over again.
Yep. Big time. And not to put you on the spot, any of you on the spot, but how would, if you are seriously challenged by your boss, and that is one of the primary reasons that you're leaving, when someone says, why are you leaving your job? How do you genuinely answer that question without doing what you just said to not do, Sean?
I would say, I think the best answer is I'm looking for more opportunity and growth and fulfillment in my career. Simple as that. And leave it there, because that's a positive answer, doesn't throw anybody under the bus, and it says I want more out of my career and out of my life, and we want to hire people that want want more out of their life.
Right. Perfect.
So yeah, I think maybe just maybe to add to that real quick, it's a really difficult conversation to have. So what I would recommend is sticking to the facts as much as possible. So rather than sort of because this can be like a rather emotional time. So rather than talking about like the emotions and the feelings and the things that are surrounding your unhappiness or reasons to leave, we just need to focus on the facts. So what it could be like is that, I on a very surface level, I came here hoping for a lot of growth, and I've been in the same position for the last 2 years. So what I'm doing moving forward is looking for XYZ promotions, right? So you just got to stick to the facts and very direct.
Great. Do you have anything to add to that, Christian?
I would agree with both, actually. I think that the studies show the number one reason why people leave is, in fact, the relationship with their immediate boss. Number two is lack of development and professional growth. And then number three is compensation. And all three, obviously, very touchy topics. Stay positive and then look for growth and development as part of your answer, certainly. I think it's a critical piece. And similarly, of course, if you can't find the growth and the development opportunity in the role that you're interviewing for, well, that's one red flag. It doesn't mean game over, but it's something that needs to be noted. And then finally, I just wanted to go back just quickly on the questions. We've all had many experiences with questions that you, the candidate, are asking throughout the interview. If you can create a dialogue where you're able to ask questions throughout the interview, that's really a good sign, actually. At the same time, you can't finish every answer with a question. So balance, and then toward the end of the interview, just be mindful of the time. And if they keep looking at their watch, you may want to ask, just a couple of questions rather than many. Hollywood kind of taught us that 3 is kind of a golden number. And oftentimes when a person is indicating, do you have any questions, if it's been a significant amount of time in terms of interviewing, 2, 3, 4 questions is usually what you can kind of muster before you close out. That would be my other piece.
Cool. So we have some really good questions coming in. I want to get to these. So Audrey, you asked a couple different questions. I'm going to take the first one that I see here. You said you are currently applying for a senior VP job at the recommendation of a friend of yours who works for that company. You've asked her if she would consider sending your resume to the CCO to whom this position will report. She graciously offered to send the resume to her boss and asked that he pass it along. What additional and specific advice do you have for me? So you asked her to send it to a specific person. She handed it instead to someone else who probably reports into the person that you ultimately want to land it with. So I would say, the first thing I would ask is I would walk up to my friend and say, Audra, I asked that you put this in front of the CCO. Is there anything that's giving you a reason to hesitate on doing that? Like what challenge can I overcome so that you feel inclined to hand it directly to the CCO? Now, it may be too late to do that. So at this point in time, maybe you would consider asking that individual, your friend, if there's any feedback from the person that you did hand it to. Have you gotten any feedback from that person? And is that person willing to have a conversation with me so that they're more comfortable handing it off to the CCO? The last thing that I would say is don't wait too long. This is a game of high numbers. When you're looking for a new opportunity, you have to increase the overall amount of activity and you have to increase the rate of speed in order to land things. You can't let things sit because people will forget. I mean, this, like we were saying, all of us have said from the very beginning, this is your job, but it's not anyone else's job but yours. So you can't expect other people to put in the work for you. You can't expect them to do those things for you, but you can expect them to help you along the way, or hopefully expect them to help you along the way. And certainly you can give them the tools, the resources, and the word tracks, as I call them, to help you and make it comfortable for them to do that. But also ask those pertinent questions. You know, is there anything giving you pause? Is there any reason that you wouldn't deliver this? Or is there anything changes that I need to make or anything like that? But I'll turn it over to the other panelists and see if there's any other advice that they might have on that particular question.
I think
Yeah.
go ahead. You can go ahead. Go ahead, Nick.
Thanks, Christian. Yeah, I would say, I mean, first of all, great job getting a connection inside of the company. That's huge, right? What I would say, what you need to do after that, get to know more people in and around the company. What it sounds like to that person, that's a great support connection, but it's probably not a great direct connection. I always make the assumption that, I'll make the assumption that your friend, her primary objective is probably to keep that job. People are relatively sort of inherent the focus, so her focus is probably to keep that job herself. And what it really takes in order to get momentum and move things forward towards employment is somebody really sticking their neck out for you. And so you really need somebody to push, say, hey, here's Audra, here's why she makes sense, here's why you need to have a conversation with her, and somebody to go direct. So look throughout the company, anybody else that you know there. Some other ways that people don't necessarily always look, but there are a lot of people that are around the company that can put in good word for you also. So those could be their customers, could be their vendors, it could be the nonprofits that they support. You've got connections there. Look for any other way that you can get some good words in there.
Yeah, good points, Nick. I just wanted to add one more thing, and it's kind of obvious, I think. Just try to read the person. Listen to the tone, read the text in terms of the responsiveness and the time. Typically when someone is really moving very quickly with a big smile on their face, they're being very, very helpful. When they're not, there may be something that you don't know. And sometimes in any scenario in the future, it's actually okay then to kind of stop and say, hey, you know, or if you want, maybe you can just point me in the right direction. Because there could be something there where the person also, for whatever reason, isn't quite able to be helpful. And then it's better to kind of just ask them to kind of guide you, to just kind of read the language and the speed people are moving, and then kind of try to mirror that. Because if you're pushing too hard, unfortunately what's going to happen is people are going to just ignore the email, ignore the message, and stop answering the phone call. So the trick is to kind of run in sync with whoever you're asking to help you.
I'll just add one quick thing. Those are great answers, you guys. So Audra, I think something that's great for your own personal growth and development in this situation is I would ask your friend why she thinks you should apply for that job. I think it's a great opportunity for you to gain some insight on why she thinks you're good for that position. And then if you ever get to that point where you have the opportunity to interview, you've gathered information on why she thinks you're a good fit. Does she think you're a good culture fit? Does she think you specifically have a skill that they really need right now? But I think that's a really, really great opportunity. I mean, obviously you thank her first. Oh, that's wonderful that you want me to do that. I definitely want to apply. Why do you think I should apply? And you just listen and hear what feedback she has for you and why she thinks you'd be a good fit at that organization. That might be gold for you down the road, whether it's gold for you at this job or maybe for another opportunity. It gives you insight as to what somebody thinks about you.
That's gold right there. Excellent. So a couple points. I don't know that everyone saw them in the chat, but there was one comment that said, FYI, I just had a second interview by video and they asked me to do a PowerPoint presentation on why they should hire me. I sent the presentation to one of the three interviewing me as a backup, and I did need to ask that he share it or that person share it due to difficulty with my Microsoft Teams. So have a plan B, which is awesome. Yeah, always have a plan B. Always try to figure out a different way to approach things if the first way fails. And then from Gina Nelson, thank you, Gina, for being here, and thanks for sharing this. She said, I like that everyone has talked about taking the time to send the resume that fits the job. One thing that she has seen, and I think these guys can agree, is that clients will not budge on exceptions to some of the qualifications now more than ever. So before sending that resume, if you have the qualification, be sure they are listed on your resume. Don't assume they will know that you have it. Just because you have, just as an example, some specific technology that ties almost every single time to this other technology, that they're going to assume you have both. And especially given the fact that a lot of these are going to, AI type recruitment tracking systems. If it doesn't see it, if it doesn't pull it up, then it's not going to know you have it. So very, very, very often, too often, I know in my world, I see people drop things off their resume and say, well, they'll know that they know I have that. No, they don't. You need to hit them right upside the head with it and make sure that they see it in your resume. And if they've posted it in their requirement several times, post it in your resume several times. Mirror to the degree that is logical and truthful what you see in that requirement. Any other points on that, gentlemen? Okay. Another question from one of our attendees. How would you answer the question as to why you are currently unemployed if that is your situation? I'll take that real quick, and then if you guys want to jump in. Today, not an issue. Like as we sit here right now, that is not an issue. 4 months ago, it certainly was. Low unemployment. No one was really out there seeking new opportunities, or a very limited number of people were out there seeking opportunities in certain areas of the economy anyway, not all areas of the economy. But I would say there's several different ways to answer that question. And one of the big things to make sure that you don't fall victim to is do absolutely nothing when you're unemployed. You want to volunteer, you want to find opportunities to help others, you want to find consulting roles, you want to do something that shows that you're still active and still moving things forward. So you don't always have to add those things to your resume. Certainly if they are resume worthy, you would, and you can reach out to any of the four of us to have us help you figure out what is and what isn't supposed to be there. But those sorts of things certainly will carry some weight. But if you are legitimately unemployed, if you cannot find anything else, if there's no volunteer opportunities or anything like that, I would say be as honest and genuine as you can. I've been looking this entire time. I've been looking for the last 3 months. I have been unsuccessful in my efforts thus far. I have not, reevaluated or lowered my standards. What I've done in the past, I feel can still add value today. And then after that interview, follow up with them and say, how did I answer that question? There are going to be a lot of hiring managers out there who will give you truthful answers. Not all of them will. Trust me, not all of them will, but a lot of them will. And they may give you advice or insight, or call any of the four of us and we'll help you craft that message as well. Because that's one thing that all of us do every single day. Anything to add to that, gentlemen?
I'll just really quickly add, and you briefly touched on it, Alan. It's a question that has to be answered honestly. You have to give them the reason that you're unemployed, and that could be uncomfortable, depending on why you're unemployed. And it may not be uncomfortable at all. Budget cuts, something's out of your hands. But you need to be honest in that answer, and for all reasons, because that's who we should be anyways. But on top of that, it's people find out why people left jobs. And so if there's any kind of misrepresentation there, and that's found out by a hiring manager or by a company, then your chances to get hired there will probably not happen. And so just need to be honest about that situation, and that's okay.
Yep.
I just wanted to add to Sean's answer. So one thing is for sure, you're going to get asked a question. You know it, so prepare for it. And when you do, if you're in a situation where you're video conferencing or sitting in front of someone, make sure your face doesn't drop and your tone doesn't drop. Stay positive and remain, the person that they knew before they asked the question. And so don't get defensive about it. Know your answer. And then obviously be brief and amazing in your answer too. If you're still answering that question 10 minutes later, you're talking yourself out of a job pretty quickly. So, try to wrap it up and get to the point. And then the close, the bridge in your answer is to express interest for the role that you're interviewing for. So it could be something simple as, and as a result, I'm really happy to be here today to be interviewing for this role since I'm a great candidate for the role. Now you're signaling that you're done answering the question. Now they may push back and ask follow-up questions depending on how brief your answer was. But it's no need to be defensive is critical. Just welcome it as an opportunity to speak about it.
Yeah, I'll highlight that's great. I'll highlight what you said also, Alan, like the importance of asking for feedback is huge. And so, I would do that throughout every interview at every time. Just, how is this going? What did you think of this conversation? What do you think of that answer? The thing is, like, when you're working together, you're likely going to want that sort of feedback, and it actually really adds to your engagement and your experience at work. So it's nice, like, sort of asking that in the interview, because that chances are that's what it's going to be like when you all work together. And then also, like, answering the question of, why are you looking today, or why are you unemployed today? Just answer as factually as possible. Answer the facts. And so answer exactly what happened and why, and you're really reiterating what they stated to you was the reason that you're unemployed, right? Or the reason that you're leaving. So stick to the facts. And I'll give you a hint. The fact is not that your old boss sucks, or he's a jerk, or he's got no vision, or the company is terrible. Like all of those things may be like the popular opinion, but they're not necessarily the exact fact of why, right? And so somebody doesn't necessarily want you to bring that into the space. And so if you need to get complete with your old boss, or if you need to just sort of bury that, do whatever in your life that you can to do that, but stick to the facts as much as you can.
I love this next question from Cassandra. She asked, what is the best way to initiate connections on LinkedIn within companies where you are looking to join? I am concerned about looking like the annoying people who are constantly trying to sell something. I also notice that the boomer generation tends to be more selective about adding new connections. How do you get their attention in the right way? I'll throw that out to the panel.
Well, technically, Alan, I wouldn't know. I'm Gen X. Which is also the name of a great band from England many years ago, led by Billy Idol. But so in terms of the connection request, here's what I will speak to. So we have 300 characters in the message when we look to connect. 300 characters. I've been on LinkedIn since I think 05 when I discovered it, or maybe it was 06, I can't recall, but I was one of the first people, I was part of that first million people to join. And I never used the in-mail messaging function. I always used the connection request. But I labor over those 300 characters. So if you can get to the point without it becoming a turnoff, the chances are they're gonna accept your request to connect, and as a result, they'll understand also why you're reaching out. And if it's well balanced in those 300 characters, you'll be surprised how many actually accept your request. Now, whether or not they choose to do something with it, well, that's next step. And the next step then is to send a message in the in-mail function. The in-mail function costs money, credits. I never use it. So, I got credits coming out of my ears because I always use the connection request function.
Anything else, Nick or Sean, on that?
Yeah, I'll pop in. I would say I'll preface all of this with saying, like, I'm probably one of the worst violators of this. And I just like shotgun connections in without any sort of messages, just because I see great people and I want to be friends. But that is not necessarily the right way to do it. Keep in mind that LinkedIn has shifted incredibly, as Christian mentioned earlier. It shifted a lot. 10 years ago, or maybe even 5 years ago, it was sort of weird if you sent a connection request to somebody that you didn't know or you haven't talked to before. It was sort of strange. Like, why do you want to be friends with me? I don't know you. Whereas things have really shifted. So today, people are more or less open to connecting, and there's less of sort of a confidentiality concern on there. So, like, if you see somebody that you want to be connected with, shoot them a request. Now, I think what I heard in there is that you don't want to seem like the annoying person that's selling something. Well, the great thing is you've got an opportunity to tell them that you're not the annoying person trying to sell something. So what I would recommend is just like typing in a quick message on why you want to connect with them and then recognize them for something. So it's like, hey, you've got 3 promotions within the company that you're in. That's amazing. Or, hey, I just noticed this great project that you just finished, or I heard about this. That's incredible, right? People love that recognition and they're more likely to connect with you afterwards. Like real connect, not be like connection people, but like start a dialogue and have a meaningful connection.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good, Nick. And Nick mentioned this basically, just be genuine. Just be genuine in your message. I think is really important to be genuine. You're not trying to hide behind anything. The other thing I would say is it's always a good idea if if you have somebody that's connected to that person, go to that person that you're friends with, that you're connected with and say, hey, do you mind if I use your name, in a connection that so-and-so, I want to connect with so-and-so, can I use your name? And when you use a name like that, a lot of times that's really super helpful too.
Yep. Yeah, and I would say the other thing, like Christian said, the in-mails cost money or cost credits. So when you're sending the connection request, I always tell people, don't just send the vanilla connection request. You have to have something in there that is something of, again, a differentiator, some sort of hook. So to Nick's point, comment on an article that was recently written, comment on their quarterly earnings that you recently read, comment on a CEO change or a leadership change, or the fact that they just did something in their community and you were really impressed by that. Or just come right out and say, I'm looking for an opportunity and I've always respected and regarded your company highly. I don't know that you would ultimately be the person to hire me, but I'd love to connect with you and see if you can point me in the right direction. I find that's a very direct way and a very easy way to, get somebody to help you, and I put in the subject line, hoping you can help. I do that a lot. That auto populates in LinkedIn. When I go to LinkedIn, it auto populates, hoping you can help, because that's my number one go-to for LinkedIn messages. So that's, hopefully, Cassandra, you got what you were looking for out of that, and others. We've got about 6 minutes left and we've got a lot of really good questions here. Let's see. Several companies are sharing that they are on a hiring freeze for external candidates. Do you think onboarding new hires during this time is impacting hiring, even though there is still an immediate need? Yes, absolutely, positively. I'll let the guys join in, but the thing that we are recommending, Daniel, when we're reaching out to companies as an agency, is we're saying, look, we saw this wave of candidates as we were coming out of the Great Recession. So in 2009, when companies really started to hire in mass, they were hiring and they were interviewing an inordinate amount of people. The amount of people that you just can't handle trying to get through. And the applications were numerous. So companies right now are wise to interview today. Make a case for why a candidate would want to come work for them. Make a case for why they would be the employer of choice, even though they are on a hiring freeze. And I'm recommending it to clients every single day. Look, I get it. Everything is paused. Everything is on hold. I understand. But wouldn't you rather know who you want to hire when we come out of this? And wouldn't you rather know that that person wants to be hired by you when we come out of this, versus, trying to race to that finish line with every other company or every other competitor in town that also wants that talent? Anyone have anything else to add to that?
Just really quickly, I'll add, Alan. So the tendency is, with all the freezes happening, as a candidate that's looking, the tendency is to kind of slow down our search, and you know what? A lot of people will do that. And so the way you stand out is you consistently, like we said at the very beginning, consistently have conversations, consistently have touches, be active on that company's LinkedIn page, follow that company on LinkedIn. If there's individuals you've already talked to in the past, but things are on hold, make sure you know what's going on with them on LinkedIn, right? If you have a chance to make a comment and it's not out of the ordinary or creepy or anything like that, or like something that they post, you can do something like that, right? So there's opportunities for touches still during this time, and 75% of the people that are also applying won't be doing those touches. And so if you want to stand out now until the hiring freeze comes off, you continue to touch.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd say maybe on that, like the analogy that I use is getting yourself to the front of the line. You know, like you want to be at the front of the line, so that way when the doors open, when the party starts, you know, you're the first person through the door, and they know that it's exactly you. It may be like Black Friday shopping out there. Like you may have to like claw your way to the front, and you may have to like work your butt off, you know, in order to get there and maintain your place in line. But get yourself to the front of the line, and as many lines as possible, right? Not just any jobs. There got to be like things that you're really care about or really important to you, but get to the front of the line in as many places as possible.
Yeah. Very true. So a question from Brian regarding follow-up post-interview beyond the thank you. How often do you follow up and for how long? At what point is it obnoxious or do you just give up?
I'd say initially, trust your instincts. If you don't have a lot of experience with the follow-up and the job search and the thank you notes, then I typically tell my clients, I said, look, if you're following up on a weekly basis, unless you've been told differently, then you're probably playing it safe. Now, there's times where maybe there was an early follow-up in the week, and then that will open up an opportunity for you to follow up later in the week. It all depends on the situation, but obviously if it gives you heartburn, more than likely you shouldn't. But if you say, you know what, maybe I should, I'm just afraid of, then overcome that fear by changing up your message a little bit. Add something. I think Nick and Sean and Alan all touched on the fact that you should add something to it. I will say this, my least favorite follow-up emails that I get is literally in the header, it says, any news, ?
Oh.
And I'm like, yes, of course there's news, but you need to try a little harder. The other ones who are pre-scheduled at a certain time that read the same, they're just boring. So my tip in order to bubble up is to add something new. And we've talked about examples, what you can add in your follow-up. But the frequency, you should be okay to do it once a week, as long as it's positive. And don't ever, go negative. Don't apologize. Just stay positive.
Anything else?
Yeah, that's great. I love that. Yeah, I mentioned that. So fundamentally, people are hiring other people to make their life easier. So if during the interview process, you're sending emails or some sort of communication to them that creates more work for them or makes their life more difficult, it ain't going to work out. So I think in the message or the response, it always has to be like, hey, what can I be doing for you? What would make it easier for you during this process? How could I be the best candidate for you during this process? Mention those things, and then you should stop reaching out when they tell you to stop reaching out. So if they've communicated, not interested, not there, and no is a perfectly fine answer, but don't stop trying to get a connection until you're with them.
Yeah. Do you have anything else, Sean?
Good.
So the only thing I would add is I like the takeaway, and I've advised candidates on doing the takeaway several times, and it has bred success. So that would look like, I'm excited to at least assume at this point in time you filled that position. Great for you. I was very interested in the opportunity. I was very interested in your company. Sorry things that, not sorry, because I agree with Christian, you shouldn't say sorry, but I wish things had worked out differently. And if the opportunity comes up for me to interview or work with you in the future, I would love another opportunity to do so. Something along those lines. And actually I wrote one recently for a candidate that he sent off and then immediately got a response. So I will post that on LinkedIn, as you guys know I like to do, momentarily, so that you can see kind of how we crafted that message. But just do it, if you're, it's not for everybody. It's, the takeaway can be risky, but it also typically, I would say 80+% of the time warrants a responst.
Alan, it also saves you a lot of time.
It saves you a ton of time.
Time from just continuing on 3 weeks later. So if you really want to know, you do it in the right way. It's a good way to do it.
Yeah. And I would say right now, especially those who are unemployed or those who are furloughed or those who are just in that mode of, I need to find a win, you will count that as a win. When you cut that company off your Excel spreadsheet, off your target list, that's a win because you can add 3 more now and not worry about them any longer. All right. So let's see. Clients are looking, oh, Gina made a great point. Clients are looking to skill up in their staff. The thought is I couldn't get the skill set 3 months ago. Maybe I can now. That's an awesome point. Based on the pause that you speak of, do you have a feel for when things will start to gain momentum for hiring? I'm going to let Nick answer that one. Nick, when are things going to start to bounce back again?
It's already started.
Yeah.
You may not necessarily see it, but it's already started. So we're already talking about openings, and there are different offices that are opening around the country. So people are opening up and they're doing business again, which means that we can start interviewing. We can see people face to face again, and it's already happening. So yeah, I mean, the unemployment numbers are pretty daunting to look at, and we'll probably continue to see an increase in that. But people are already starting to hire, and even now, if their office isn't open or they're not operational today, they're seeing a time when they can be operational and putting some confidence in that and hiring people. So yeah, it's already happening, and maybe a little early. You may not necessarily be seeing it, but you'll just see it more and more, I think, over the coming weeks.
Awesome. Anything else to add?
I would agree with Nick 100%. Now is the time. You know, there was a lot of people who unfortunately were furloughed and terminated. Companies are going to look to bring them back before they start looking for external candidates. So if you think of it as 100%, whatever the number is that they're looking to bring back, truth is not all the 100% are coming back. They moved on. That's the opportunity for an external candidate. So let's say only 8 out of 10 return to work. Now you have a vacancy of 2, and that's where you, the external candidate, can shoot the gap. And it's happening as we speak. So I agree with Nick 100%.
Nice. Fantastic. Well, it is 12:34, and we have run our time, just over our time. So I can't thank my panelists enough. Thank you all very, very much for being here. Any questions at all, please connect with us on LinkedIn. All of us are open to connecting with you on LinkedIn. We are absolutely, positively grateful for the opportunity to help out however we can. So thank you all, and we will definitely do this again.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.